I'm not your gossip girl, I'm the headline. Truth with a curve, baby, redefine. Welcome to the thirst trap. All the truth looks good in a tight wrap. We talk love, power, soul, and sin. Turn the world on, let the light in. Yeah, the thirst trap news. You'll drink it up, it's the real you. Never trying to thirst real news, where every headline's a revelation.
Hey everybody, we are back. We've missed a couple weeks for the Ancient Origins series, but that's okay because it's not like we have a huge crowd on Sundays, and most people see the recording afterwards. So that's why I haven't really been stressing about it. But here we are. Tonight, we arrive at Egypt, and before anyone rushes to label that word as mythology, mystery, or metaphor, let me say this clearly. You do not understand human origins, religion, or civilization unless you understand Egypt. Egypt is not just another ancient civilization or culture. Egypt is a mother civilization. It is the womb from which so many of our spiritual traditions, religious symbols, moral codes, and metaphysical ideas were born, repackaged, renamed, and redistributed across centuries. And that's not opinion, that's history. Long before Rome, long before Greece was canonized as the intellectual cradle of the West, long before modern religions claimed divine originality, Egypt was already ancient. When the pyramids were old, Egypt was already old. Egypt understood the soul before most cultures understood government. They mapped the afterlife before others mapped borders. They studied consciousness, duality, death, rebirth, judgment, resurrection, not as fairy tales, but as cosmic laws. Does that sound familiar to you? It should. Because when you peel back the layers of modern religion, you keep finding Egyptian footprints underneath. The concept of resurrection, the weighing of the soul, the divine trinity, the virgin birth motif, the idea that light conquers darkness, the truth that truth judges the soul after death. All of that is Egyptian. Osiris dies and is resurrected. Horus is born of divine origin. Isis is the sacred mother. Ma'at is truth, balance, and moral law. These aren't fringe parallels. They are structural foundations. Judaism, Christianity, Islam, they all emerged in regions saturated with Egyptian theology, symbolism, and cosmology. Even Greek philosophy, the very backbone of Western thought, studied in Egypt before it was ever written down in Athens. Plato knew it. Pythagoras knew it. They didn't invent wisdom. They imported it. Egypt was not a place of primitive superstition. It was a school, a mystery school, initiation-based, symbolic, and layered. Knowledge was earned, not broadcast. Truth was protected, not diluted. And the most sacred teachings were never meant for mass consumption, which is exactly why, later on, they were simplified, moralized, and weaponized for control. Because here's the part that matters. Egypt taught that humans are divine participants in the cosmic order, not slaves. Not sinners by default, and not powerless, but beings capable of aligning with Ma'at, truth, justice, balance, and harmony. That idea is dangerous to empires. So later systems did what systems always do. They took the symbols, they kept the rituals, but they removed the power from the people. They replaced inner gnosis with outer obedience. They replaced initiation with authority. They replaced awakening with hierarchy. And suddenly what was once a path to enlightenment became a tool of governance. That's why understanding Egypt matters now, not academically, but spiritually. Not because Egypt reminds us that religion did not begin as control. It began as cosmic literacy. It taught humans how to live in alignment with nature, with the stars, with time, with death, not fearing it, but understanding it as transition. Egypt didn't ask, do you obey? It asked, do you live in truth? Your heart was weighed, not your allegiance, and that alone should make everyone pause. Because when you understand Egypt, you start to see how later religions borrowed, reframed, and sometimes distorted its wisdom, often to serve kings, priests, and empires, rather than the soul. This doesn't make modern faiths false. It makes them incomplete without their origin story. And tonight, that's what we're doing. We're restoring context, not to tear anything down, but to remember. Because Egypt is not dead. It is encoded in scripture, in architecture, in ritual, and in symbols we still use but no longer question. And once you see it, you start to realize something profound. We didn't lose truth. It was buried in plain sight. So tonight, as we step into Egypt, we are stepping into the roots of humanity's spiritual memory. Before the edits, before the power grabs, and before the fear-based theology. This is where it all converges, and this is where the remembering begins. Okay. Good evening, Tom. Hello, Rashad and Knutson. I don't know if you remember, if you were watching Judge Joe Brown's episode, he was talking about Israel, and he was saying one thing you have to remember about the Israel situation we have going on, why people seem to be wanting to like break free of Israel. It's like, what's going on with Israel, right? One thing he brought up about Moses in Egypt and the slavery and all that stuff was that the Hebrews weren't actually slaves in Egypt. They actually agreed to that because it was part of their service. That one too on the left. Part of their belief system to, I forgot exactly what it was. I need to go back over to the episode, but I kind of briefly touched on it in my opening monologue when I said the Egyptians asked, do you live, they don't ask, do you obey? They ask, do you live in truth? So they didn't have a culture of slavery. That wasn't there. That really wasn't what was happening. These Israelites were working for them. There was some sort of deal, but I need to go back to Judge Joe Brown's episode and read that or listen to that. Read that. Can you go back to, just real quick, can you go back to the solo? Okay, yeah, warm it up. Okay, and let me get back to this. So, it's gonna come up in the next one anyway, because before we go to Greece, I'm gonna move into the Hebrews, the Israelites, and their context in human history, because you kind of have to understand the setup to the Bible and just kind of everything going on today politically. Have to get into them because it is very much part of the story, because the fact that they were slaves for Egypt was like debunked apparently, and that's something that is constantly repressed, and you have to do really regressive research on it, because you can't just Google it, because everything's designed to, everything has been on the online. The AI is, and Google and all, they're all owned by Jews. Everything's owned by Jews. So, the victor writes the story and then, changes what they want and leave out what they want. So, there's things, that narratives that we've been told to believe, and if you're in an effort to break free of the matrix, then you really have to question, everything. You have to question all of it. And not be afraid of the shunning, if I can get through shunning on like a mass scale, you can too. But it won't happen on a mass scale this time because the truth is coming out everywhere. The lies are falling apart. So everybody is kind of moving in this direction together, which is a good thing. It's a good thing. And I'm just here to help along the way, show what helped wake me up. I'm kind of just like sharing my journey of like kind of replicating it for you guys, my awakening journey. All right. So, ancient Egypt. Egypt eternal, when the afterlife basically became the ultimate control system. Your soul is what's used. That's the carrot dangling in front of the donkey. Your soul is dangled over you all the time. Cheers, by the way. Tom is so loyal. Tom is there at all of my subscriber episodes. I don't see him during the week, though, so I think I've seen you a couple times during the week. I'm getting old, y'all. I'm going to have to start wearing glasses for these things. Or just my TBI. I think my TBI has really been affecting me today. Everything's felt a bit wonky, dizzy. My vision hasn't been good today. So, yeah. Anywho, I played with my rat this morning. She's so cute. She's getting more comfortable with me, and so I can walk around the house with her on my shoulder. She's just adorable. All right, getting into Egypt. So, from Babylon's law to Egypt's soul. So we discussed Babylon 3 weeks ago, and now we're moving in from how they went from a law system backed by deities to a highly religious and spiritual system in Egypt, magical system. In fact, the Egyptians were known for their magic. So this is one of my favorite episodes because you guys know I am a spiritualist, aka the derogatory word is a witch. It's really that word is really a bad word. That is what the Christians called Gnostics, what they called. So when Paul said, keep yourselves separate from this world, he meant that fully and wholly. And when you think about it, the only people who are truly separate from this world are truly spiritually enlightened people. Truly spiritual individuals. When you transition from a physical person to a spiritual person, you are now in touch with your spiritual self. And you start to notice lights flicker when you're in the room, or you hear things nobody else hears, or you have to have these encounters with your environment that are different, very similar to microdosing mushrooms. Because you're breaking free of the programming, the matrix. So when Paul says stay separate from the world, like who truly are the ones? They were called witches in the Bible. They wanted you to not be able to identify the voice of God so that they could deploy this programming on you. Well, the Bible most Christians refuse to talk about this particular part in the Bible, and it is about Christendom. What is Christendom? We rarely hear this word unless you're an evangelical, because Christendom in the Bible means the world empire of false religion. Why that phrase? World empire of false religion. So that would involve all the religions of the world acting as an empire, tying that to the harlot, the lights flickering. Yeah, my dad's loving this conversation right now. Yeah, this light was on for hours, and it's just, there it goes. He's saying hi to you. My dad is right here. This is his favorite topic. He loves this conversation. My dad passed away a year and a half ago. Yeah. So, anywho, the world empire of false religion would be all collective religions, pagan and Christian. Now, that implies that there's false religion in both sides. There has been a demonic entity that has inhabited who has been focused on manipulating your spiritual mind. So he put together a world empire of false religion it's a decoy designed to make you think, you're with the flock, but it's really leading you to your death. So Christendom would be the branch of all world religions called the branch of an empire religion referring to Christianity. So to be truly separate from the world, you have to be separate from basically mass religion. And unfortunately, the mass understanding of Christianity that has been turned into a religion, that has been turned into a cult as the worldwide as a whole, where they tell you you have no way of being saved if you don't come to Jesus. That your soul is not safe if you don't accept Jesus. But when it comes to physics, you have to understand that the Bible says angels and demons walk among us. So there are people who don't need to be saved by Jesus because they could be an angel that walks among us. So there's just different levels of spiritual connection and spiritual understanding. And then there's also culture. So that's why you'll see someone who looks like a witch in spiritual terms, but also looks like a Christian, and then you'll see someone in a totally different part of the world who's maybe like a monk who has the same exact qualities but isn't a Christian, is exhibiting the same connection to nature and spirit and divine. Well, thank you, Ryan. So it made me forget what I was saying. How Egypt comes into play with this is that most religions, all major religions are sun worship. So they've disguised them in cultural ways. So when you start to really understand who Jesus is, that's the whole point of what I'm doing with Human Origins, so you can actually understand who Jesus is and be free for once. Because you have to really learn a lot on your way. So to stay separate from the world truly could mean not being part of traditional Christianity because it's a decoy. And that's what I'm getting you guys to realize, is that there's certain ones. Being a witch is like one of the worst sins in Dante's Inferno. There's a reason why they made it so bad, but yet there are so many things that Jesus does that seem super freaking witchy, right? Thanks, boys. I have had no energy to do the show today, but I just shrugged forward and here we are. My cats are upstairs right above me acting like ninjas. So, Ryan, could you just please make sure that the the bedroom door is closed so they aren't harassing Spirit, my little baby, what did I call her? Pocket pup, my rat. She's my little pocket pup. She's so dang cute, and I'm really in love with that little rat. She is so smart, which is making her harder to tame because her instincts are like so strong. But I could tell she's really smart because she'll be terrified, but she's like me. She's like a little tough little trooper. She's like, it's okay. I know it's fine, but my instincts, but I know you're okay. And she just keeps trying to push through her instincts, and it's so cute. You see her, she's a little tough. She's like aware. She has metacognition. She's like very aware of herself. And my first rat, shoot, Knutson probably remembers her, Rosie. But she was older when I got her. So this is my first time having a baby rat. And I don't know. I like her. And I didn't even pick her out. But that's probably why she's like me. Because Ryan picked her out. So that makes sense. All right. So here we go. So the purpose of this section is we're bridging Babylon into Egypt. Okay. So Babylon controlled the living through law and fear. Egypt perfected control by promising eternity. Egypt was the civilization that asked not how do we rule people now, but how do we rule them forever, even after death. So basically, Babylon owned your obedience. Egypt wanted your soul. Okay, so we're going to look at our first video on that. All right, here we go.
In ancient Babylon, a powerful king named Hammurabi unveils a set of laws that will shape civilization. Known as the Code of Hammurabi, these 282 laws are etched on a towering stele for all to see. Each law, from marriage and property disputes to theft and murder, is met with strict justice. The principle an eye for an eye echoes through the land, ensuring consequences match the crime. But hidden within the code lies a chilling reality, one that strikes fear into the hearts of wrongdoers. For those who dare to challenge the code, punishments are severe and unforgiving. As whispers of justice and retribution spread, Hammurabi's rule becomes synonymous with order and fear. With the code's power undeniable, the people of Babylon navigate a precarious balance, knowing the consequences of defying the ancient laws. And so, under the watchful gaze of the stele, Hammurabi's code stands as a beacon of justice in a world teetering on the edge of chaos. In ancient Babylon, a powerful king named Hammurabi unveils a set of laws that will shape civilization. Known as the Code of Hammurabi, these two...
Did y'all remember that there is a lion in Lion King named Hammurabi? But anyway, so 282. So the Egyptians were really, really big in numerology, and numerology is something that passed down into the Bible. That of course would make Mike laugh. Mike, that was one of the ways Mike and I bonded. We were like both animal people. He liked that I was a girl. That wasn't afraid for him to show me snakes and turtles and stuff. So, we bonded over animals and nature and stuff like that. And it's so great that you don't have work tonight for once. It's like I only have 2 real guy friends. And 3 if you count Ryan. But all of y'all work crazy hours. It's just like ugh. So the 282.
282 laws are etched on a towering...
So let's look at what the numerology for 282 means. What is the spiritual? Y'all, I hate this keyboard and I don't get along. Spiritual meaning of 282. Just curious. The spiritual meaning of 282 often relates to balance, partnership, and abundance. Ooh, that's interesting because Egypt was decadent and abundant, being on the Nile, suggesting divine support for harmonious relationships, faithful stewardship, and building a prosperous life through hard work, and urging trust in the universe for material and spiritual growth, as seen in angel number interpretations and biblical references to faithfulness and contracts. So, yes, that's what I was saying earlier about the Israelites, that there was something, it was something more like a contract that they were doing. But yeah, so let's just back this up just a little bit with that context of the spiritual meaning of 282.
Robbie, these 282 laws are etched on a towering stele for all to see. Each law, from marriage and property disputes to theft and murder, is met with...
You saw that? Partnerships, harmony, prosperity.
Strict justice. The principle an eye for an eye echoes through the land, ensuring consequences match the crime. But hidden within the code lies a chilling reality, one that strikes fear into the hearts of wrongdoers. For those who dare to challenge the code, punishments are severe and unforgiving. As whispers of justice and retribution spread, Hammurabi's rule becomes synonymous with order and fear. With the code's power undeniable, the people...
So there wouldn't make a set of laws, right? As spiritual as they are, they're not going to make... Oh, there goes the lights. So I want you to watch over my shoulder right here. This light. It'll flicker. When it flickers, my arm fucking tangles. And it's my dad. It's when he gets excited. So anyway, they're not going to make a set of codes. Oh, if you're on Instagram, you can't see. You have to be on Facebook to see. Let's see if we have anybody over on Facebook. Is there anybody? No, no one is here on Facebook. Oh, well, they're lost. So... what was I saying? That's the 282 laws gives it actual power from the quantum physical metaphysical realm, like the conscious realm. So metaphysical realm means conscious realm. Quantum physics is the physical manifestations of the conscious realm. It's like the Higgs bomb proton shooter thing that, you know, when they were watching the particles, they behaved differently than when they weren't watching them. They were aware that they were being watched by people. Y'all know about that experiment. So this is why I say all of this takes a lot to understand, and it also teaches you why they vilified that. You're going to see why they vilified magic, why modern Christianity and Islam and all that has completely chosen a slavery type redemption system, and magic vilified, because any cultures like Eastern cultures that still incorporate nature worship, it is seen as magic to the West, and they're actually cultures that are more focused on spiritual enlightenment and ascendance and that kind of thing. So, and connection with God over servitude, slavery, and obedience. You don't deserve this without my undeserved kindness, you know, that kind of a thing. Instead in the East, it is very much more of a likened to a marriage with God. You know, it is more of an intimate experience. It is more of a friendship, partnership, where both disappointment and praise exists. So tell my dad to chill out. Yeah, he's so excited. He's like, there goes my girl. That's like literally I can hear him. Wow. There goes my ouch. Now it's down into my ribs. Ooh. This has never happened live before ever. All right. Well, we are talking about an episode that's going to be dealing with a lot that's, I guess, going to take my own spiritual talents to deal with. Oh my gosh. I would say Christianity vilifies magic more. Because Islam is incredibly ritualistic. But yes, so you'll notice through the theme of the Bible, numerology is used because numbers are truth. They are definitive. It is the universal language. Truth is God. Math is how God speaks. God cannot contradict itself because it is all. All right. So, moving on from Hammurabi's law. Who were the Egyptians? So, this is their historical overview. Their timeline is sometime around 31 BCE, the early dynastic period. The Old Kingdom, which was the pyramids, Middle Kingdom, and then the New Kingdom, which was empire expansion. Their geography, the Nile River, was basically what they built all of their cities off of. It was the divine artery, they considered it. It gave them predictable floods, and to them, illusion of cosmic order. Now, illusion now is an interesting word. Illusion doesn't mean fake, right? What illusion means, one part of the word is connected to the Latin word illumination. So, have you ever heard of a spectral? So, an illusion is not necessarily something that doesn't exist. In fact, an illusion is something in itself. It's not nothing. So, let's look at so let's define illusion. There you go. Our automatically wants to go to illuminate. I can't spell. An illusion is a false perception or mistaken idea where something appears to be real but isn't. Now, somebody says, yeah, see, that's something fake. No, it's where something appears to be real but isn't. Like a hologram, which if you're layman, you can falsely perceive today's holograms as a ghost or a real person. Some of these holograms today, right now with AI, they look like real people. It's kind of scary. Don't go down that rabbit hole if you don't want to get paranoid. Because it makes you start thinking about a lot of other things that we think happened right before our eyes, but might not have. Like the tent with Charlie Kirk. Like there's just certain things that are just really strange. But anyway, so an illusion, it's a false perception or mistaken idea. An idea is a group of abstract thought where something, so there's still a thing there. Doesn't mean it's something that doesn't exist or it's serving a purpose, resulting from, this is just a linguistic definition that's crossing over into science, resulting from the brain misinterpreting sensory information like a mirage or an optical illusion. So a mirage, right, is giving you an optical illusion, but what actually is it? It's literally hot water moving. You're seeing it simmering in the air. So it's still something. It's just that you interpret it to be something else. So that's why this very sterile explanation of the illusion of cosmic order exists in science, because if you acknowledge that there's order to the cosmos, then you have to acknowledge God. So science wants to say that we are just perceiving all of this as myth. It's just that it's not real. It's an illusion of something, but we choose to accept it as a group rather than saying, but I want to know how that mirage is happening. I acknowledge it's a mirage, but how is that happening? Okay, so now this is the difference between the weight of hot air versus the weight of cold air. How it becomes pressurized, how the boiling state of it makes you able to see it the same way you can see when you look over the top of water in a boiling pan right before it starts to simmer. You can see the bands of hot water moving almost like little ghosts, little mirages, you know. All right, interesting shit. So, Egypt didn't rise quickly. It went through a lot of endurance, and it's one of the longest lasting civilizations in human history. And the way it ties into the Matrix is that stability breeds belief and consistency makes systems feel eternal. So let's watch this video here on the origin of Egypt.
The map of Africa is upside down. Incredible. I'm going to tell you why Africa got flipped, by who, and what turning it right side up reveals about the true origin of ancient Egyptian civilization. Pay attention. The Nile flows south to north from deep within Africa out to the Mediterranean. And when you follow it upstream, you don't start in Egypt. You start in Sudan. But it wasn't always called Sudan. It was called Nubia, the true source of Egyptian civilization. Sudan has more pyramids than Egypt, older ones built by the Nubians, the pharaohs who ruled Egypt long before the stories you know. So why
isn't his accent beautiful? Oh my God, I love it.
Does the world see Egypt as the start? Because modern maps were made from a European point of view, with Europe on top and Britain at the center. But North isn't natural. It's simply a perspective, a choice. Ancient Africans never saw Europe as the top. To them, the source of life flowed from the south, not the north. What we've been told is the sub-Saharan bottom of Africa was, for thousands of years, the top of the known world, long before the dawn of European civilization. The map of Africa.
All right, so why would they want to do something like this? You know what I mean? Like, why would they want to flip the map? Why would they want to hide that? Well, honestly, if you want to gatekeep your power and your secrets to technology, human code, space-time travel, you would do that. You would flip the map, and most people are never going to leave their country in their life, especially if you live in a big country. If you live in Europe, it's highly likely you've been to all of them because they're like states. Same thing with Africa. Well, they're kind of savagey there, so there's less, there's a lot going on there. But in Europe, it's a little different. But outside of Europe and the United States, you don't really leave your country much unless you have a lot of money and you can protect yourself. So flip the map. No one's ever really going to notice this. But you would flip the map to hide things, hide locations of things. The Middle East has been super protective of letting people near their pyramids. They have huge areas that are just completely blocked off from the average person. So, that would be why. All right. So going back. All right. And so the second part, we're dealing with divine kingship. Pharaoh as God on earth. Well, actually, before we go into that, let's watch this video right here on YouTube.
This may be the actual location of the Tower of Babylon.
The original name of Egypt, that area, was not Cairo. It was Babylon. I found a map on the wall in Galileo Museum, and it's called the Fra Mauro map, and it shows the world in 1457. When you look at the area around Egypt, it doesn't mention the name Nile River on the Nile River. The name it gives to the Nile River is Gihon, because in the Bible the place of the Garden of Eden is where the four rivers meet. The four rivers were purportedly the Tigris, Euphrates, the Pishon, and the Gihon rivers. The scholar Josephus said that the Gihon River was the Nile. Nimrod is famous in the Bible for building the Tower of Babel. Now, the Tower of Babel was supposed to have been built on the shores of the river Gihon. Now, we today believe that Babylon was located in what we would consider, Mesopotamia.
Yep.
Archaeologists never
We
found the
went
city.
over that
And there's great
weeks ago.
debate on where Babylon actually was. Well, the funny part is that when you look at Leonardo da Vinci's letter to the Devatdar of the Sultan of Cairo, it actually says to the Devatdar of the Sultan of Babylon, Cairo, because this whole area is Old Cairo, and the name of Old Cairo was Babylon. I had very recent discoveries related to this, and I believe that the Tower of Babel.
Man, I love when I was playing Assassin's Creed, the first one, when you're playing as Desmond and Altair. That was my favorite, running around there. Oh my gosh, it was so great. I love the original one. And everyone forgets about the first one. But that whole series is like incredible if you understand human history and the path of religion. It's pretty accurate, actually. Disturbingly so. I think they're putting it in our faces. Really.
Babel Plateau was actually in Egypt, and it's actually a place called Abu Rawash. It stands 300 feet higher elevation than the Giza Plateau. The builder of it, Nimrod, interestingly, God wasn't happy, apparently, as the story goes, and destroyed the building. This is exactly northwest of the Great Pyramid Complex, and there were two pyramids there. The first pyramid is the larger of the two, and it has a 60-degree slope angle. Now, these pyramids were destroyed. Nobody knows how they were destroyed. There's about 20 concourses still there, and there's a gigantic deep cavern or pit. It looks as though the pyramid exploded from the inside out.
Interesting. I could watch that again. Shit, it's only 2 minutes.
This may be the actual location of the Tower of Babel of Babylon.
The original name of Egypt, that area, was not Cairo. It was Babylon. I found a map on the wall in Galileo Museum, and it's called the Fra Mauro map, and it shows the world in 1457. When you look at the area around Egypt, it doesn't mention the name Nile River on the Nile River.
This goes along with the other video with, changing the map. There's a lot of art involved here, skillfully played, very, very, very tactically played out information that has been left out for us, and that would mean that there really are a handful of families that run the world, because to pull this off across disciplines is too big of a feat for this illusion that we have right now about the world and all these independent countries working independent sovereignly. That's not true. Who has the money rules the world. So it's them, and it would take them knowing generationally, keep it in the family, and them knowing what to leave out across disciplines. So when you start diving into Israel and realizing, why do they all own everything? It's like, and you start looking at the marriages and looking at the intelligence and all this, that, and the other. The higher up you go, as long as you're willing to do research, you'll start to see it gets real narrow at the top, and everyone starts becoming related.
The name it gives to the Nile River is Gihon, because in the Bible, the place of the Garden of Eden is where the four rivers
All right, see, there's Babylonia right here, Gihon, and then Egypt down here.
meet. The four rivers were purportedly the Tigris, Euphrates,
Yes.
the Pishon, and the Gihon rivers. The scholar Josephus said that the Gihon River was the Nile. Nimrod is famous in the Bible for building the Tower of Babel. Now, the Tower of Babel was supposed to have been built on the shores of the river Gihon. Now, we today believe that Babylon was located in what we would consider, Mesopotamia. Archaeologists never found the city, and there's great debate on where.
This guy is actually very good. He really is really well researched.
Babylon actually was. Well, the funny part is that when you look at Leonardo da Vinci's letter to the Devatdar of the Sultan of Cairo, it actually says to the Devatdar of the Sultan of Babylon, Cairo, because this whole area is Old Cairo, and the name of Old Cairo was Babylon. I had very recent discoveries related to this, and I believe that the Tower of Babel plateau was actually in Egypt, and it's actually a place called Abu Rawash. It stands 300 feet higher elevation than the Giza Plateau. The builder of it, Nimrod, interestingly, God wasn't happy, apparently, as the story goes, and destroyed the building. This
He said, as the story goes. See that clue he left for you?
is exactly northwest of the Great Pyramid Complex, and there were two pyramids there. The first pyramid is the larger of the two, and it has a 60-degree slope angle. Now, these pyramids were destroyed. Nobody knows how they were destroyed. There's about 20 concourses still.
There's a video guide for you guys coming up where there is, we're going to show why they, the difference between before, what they look like now and what they look like originally.
There, and there's a gigantic deep cavern or pit. It looks as though the pyramid exploded from the inside out.
This may be.
I wonder if I am getting sick because I feel crazy. Like my brain is just like not cooperating with me. All right. So close that one. Okay. So all right. So moving. Okay. And there's another one. One more.
The Nile River was the lifeblood of ancient Egypt, providing water for crops, transportation, and everyday life. It's no wonder that the ancient Egyptians had a strong connection to this important river, and they even had a mythological explanation for its creation. According to legend, the Nile was created from the tears of the goddess Isis, who wept for her dead husband Osiris. The tears of Isis formed the Nile River, providing life-giving waters to the land of Egypt. This myth shows the importance of the Nile to the ancient Egyptians and the deep spiritual significance they attached to natural phenomena. The Nile River was the lifeblood of ancient Egypt, providing water for crops, transportation, and everyday life. It's no wonder that the ancient Egyptians had a strong connection to this important river, and they even had a mythological explanation for its creation. According to legend.
Yeah, and if you want to make sure people don't know that, definitely change the map.
The Nile was created from the tears of the goddess Isis, who wept for her dead husband Osiris. The tears of Isis formed the Nile River, providing life-giving waters to the land of Egypt. This myth shows the importance of the Nile to the ancient Egyptians and the deep spiritual significance they attached to natural phenomena.
All right. So yeah, the Nile was very important to them. All right, so number 2, divine kingship. Pharaoh as God on earth. This was foundational to their core concepts. Pharaoh was the living God. Son of Ra was Horus incarnate. I believe the son, Amen-Ra was either the father or the son of Ra. I can't remember which one's the dad. Amen-Ra, I think, was the father, or I could be wrong. It could be the son, but the point is, it was Horus incarnate. Rising from the dead. Political authority equaled cosmic necessity. Disobedience equaled cosmic imbalance. So Mot's disruption. Remember, Mot is harmony, order, balance. Psychological control. So there was no separation between church and state and the cosmos. Power was framed as natural law. So that is if that sounds familiar to you, that would be what constitutional law is. It's natural law. Separation of church and state. no separation between church and state. So they say, there should be separation between church and state. But how do you, what makes you choose the laws that you choose? Like, from what order of morality is it coming from? So when you're coming from morality at its highest point, you're coming from morality at the natural order. So you leave room for real freedom. If you come in to make laws at a secondary level of morality, which would be the human social matrix determining what is acceptably good and bad based on your regions, that's the second order. But the highest order is natural law. So that's the universal virtues of moral code, that it just exists naturally in all sentient beings, to protect your resources, to protect your life, to protect your offspring, and to position yourself in life to have the most resources, and the right to protect them. So that would sound a lot like constitutional law. So this is where the witchy insight comes in. This is where human sovereignty is surrendered upward, not to gods, but to men claiming godhood. Like kings. I am king because I'm a god. Let's look at this video. This would be a video that seems to be out of order. Or named wrong, but we're just going to go with it. Let's just see what it is.
Imagine a time when kings weren't just rulers, they were gods. This is the epic story of how the first pharaohs rose to power in ancient Egypt. But before the pharaohs, Egypt was divided into two lands, Upper Egypt in the south and Lower Egypt in the north. For centuries, they fought for control, until one king changed everything. Meet Narmer, also known as Menes. Around 3100 BCE, he did the impossible. He conquered both lands and became Egypt's first true ruler. With Egypt united, the first pharaohs began their rule. But they weren't just kings, they were seen as living gods. One of the most legendary early rulers was Pharaoh Djoser. He did something no king had ever done before. He built the first pyramid, the Step Pyramid of Saqqara, designed by his genius architect, Imhotep. But what made pharaohs so powerful? The Egyptians believed their rulers were chosen by the gods, especially Horus, the falcon god of kingship. To keep their power, pharaohs had one job: maintain Ma'at, the balance of order and chaos. If they failed,
Horus is often compared to Jesus.
Egypt would fall into darkness. Pharaohs also built massive...
Also, Horus is the one that has the eye of Horus, which represents the pineal gland. So the pineal gland is what helps you connect to God, to the Holy Spirit. When you have prayers, actually hear the conversation.
Tombs to prepare for the afterlife, because they believed they would become immortal after death. The rise of the pharaohs was just the beginning. Their rule lasted for over 3,000 years, making Egypt one of the greatest civilizations in history. Even today, their pyramids and temples stand tall, reminding us of their incredible power. But this is just the start. Want to know about Egypt's most legendary pharaohs, like Ramses the Great, Hatshepsut, and Tutankhamun? Let me know in the comments. Hit like if you...
He actually said it properly, correctly. Tutankhamun. And now I'm like all tongue-tied.
You love ancient history.
All right. So they mentioned Ma'at, cosmic order as a moral weapon. So what is Ma'at? Ma'at, truth, balance, order, justice, and harmony. How did Ma'at function? Moral behavior was tied to cosmic survival, and society told you if you obey, the universe continues, and if you rebel, chaos consumes everything. So how this connects to the matrix is the social conformity equaling moral virtue, or if you don't conform, we shun you, or beat you to death in varying degrees. Individual truth is a threat to order. How it works on a mass scale psychology is the fear of chaos is stronger than the fear of death, because death means it's over. You don't know when you're going to die. So living in chaos for an extended period of time is incredibly stressful, and people are going to fear that. All right, so let's look at who the Egyptian goddess Ma'at is. Ma'at.
In the beginning, when the world was shaped and the gods took their places, Ma'at was born, not in chaos, but as the answer to it. She was not a warrior, yet no force was stronger. With a single white feather upon her head and truth in her gaze, Ma'at.
So this is, you remember the feather. So this comes into play with the scales of justice that the Egyptians had their version of.
Brought balance to the world. She was the daughter of Ra, rising with him at dawn and guiding him through the heavens and the underworld alike. Without her...
That's what it was. Amen Ra means you're thanking Ra. So Amen, I think, is more of a expression of like gratitude, and I don't know. I gotta look that back up. I cannot remember, but there's a connection between Ra and Amen. Oh yeah, Tom did say that. Corpus Christi.
Even the sun could not rise. Ma'at was the order of the cosmos, the breath that kept the stars in place, the silence between heartbeats, the justice that held kingdoms together. She governed truth, fairness, and harmony, not as laws carved in stone, but as the natural rhythm of all things. Kings ruled by her decree.
It's like the Holy Spirit.
And their thrones stood firm only when her principles guided their hearts. Every judgment, every oath, every weighing of the soul began and ended with Ma'at. In the Hall of Two Truths, she stood beside Osiris as the dead were judged.
See, that AI almost started to sing for a second. Y'all heard that? That's funny.
Her feather was placed on one side of the scales and the heart of the departed on the other. A life lived in truth would balance the scale and grant passage to the afterlife. But those who lived in lies and cruelty found their hearts devoured, erased from the eternal cycle. She was not worshipped with blood or fear, but honored with right action, with honesty in speech, fairness in trade, and compassion in power. Even the gods were bound to her.
So there's that feminine energy.
In the beginning, when the...
Yeah, so there's the goddess Ma'at explained. It's very much like, the Holy Spirit. All right, moving into section 4. Oops, sorry. We're going to talk a little bit about the Egyptian gods. We're going to explain those. Talk about their magic and symbolism and programming through ritual. So the key deities are Ra, which is the sun, creation, and authority. Osiris is death, resurrection, judgment. Isis, magic, motherhood, and divine power. Anubis, embalming, soul guidance, like the Grim Reaper. Thoth, writing, knowledge, divine record keeper. So you've got Ra, who is the son so likened to Jesus, the Son of God. You've got eclipses being very important in Egyptian history. And then with Jesus' death, he was dead for 3 days and rose. Osiris is very much likened to the fallen angel or the devil, Isis, Mary, Anubis, the Grim Reaper in Christian lore, which would be the Archangel Gabriel in Kabbalah, Thoth, writing knowledge, divine record keeper. So that would be very much the Book of Life in Christian lore. And there's a hall of something. Oh shit! In Viking lore, your Akashic records is another version. The keeper of those. Also Metatron in Kabbalah. Magic would be Heka. Magic wasn't fantasy. It was a state-sanctioned science. This was taught in schools. Words, symbols, rituals believed to shape reality. So this is why Egypt was so known for their magic, because this was their school. So the whole school of magic and fantasy and lore in general comes from Egypt, where Egyptian magic wasn't control at its root. It was knowledge. It was priesthood. The priesthood decided who accessed the magic, so you would have schools of magic. All right, so let's look at this video, which explains 13 Egyptian gods in 13 minutes.
At the beginning of time, there was only Nun, the primeval waters of chaos. Then, in a great flood, the sun god Atum rose from the water and willed himself into creation. Atum then created air, a son he named Shu, and moisture, a daughter he named Tefnut. They were the first divine pair and soon had children of their own, the earth named Geb and the sky called Nut. The second divine pair then had 4 children of their own, Osiris, Isis, Seth, and Nephthys, completing the group of 9 primeval gods known as the Aeneid. Osiris then married his sister Isis, and the two ruled over Egypt together in an unprecedented time of peace and prosperity. However, their jealous brother Seth desired the throne for himself and murdered Osiris, dismembering his body and scattering the parts across the land. Isis then searched for the pieces of her husband's body, and with the help of her sister Nephthys, was eventually able to collect them. With the help of the scholar god Thoth and the funerary god Anubis, Isis was able to reconstruct Osiris, creating the first mummy. Osiris impregnated Isis after his resurrection, however he was too weak to remain in the world, instead travelling to the Duat, the land of the dead where he became lord. Seth then
drop your kitchen scraps in here instead of here.
Yay. We have an ad. It's because we should have been on
forcing Isis to flee and give
account.
birth to her son Horus in hiding. She raised Horus until he was an adult and able to challenge his uncle Seth for the throne. After a violent contest, the case was settled in a divine legal trial hosted by the Aeneid. Acting as judge was Geb, god of the earth, who ruled in favour of Horus, who then took his rightful place as king of Egypt. Future pharaohs claimed descent from Horus, with it being this divine ancestry that gave them the right to rule. Amun, the Hidden One, was the foremost god of Egypt, thought to be the invisible force behind all things, even creation itself. Unlike other gods who were linked to only one aspect of the world, such as the sky, the earth, or the sun, Amun was a universal god who had links to all parts of the cosmos. His prominence also increased as he absorbed other gods throughout Egyptian history, taking on their roles and powers. The most important of these was his merger with the sun god Ra, combining to become Amun-Ra. In this role, he became linked with the sun, which was an essential part of the Egyptian world. It is in this combined
Sometimes I wonder if they gene spliced more than just with the Homo sapiens, because you've got these ones that look like they have falcon heads and everything, and it's like, what did these astro gods do? Like, we know about us, but it seems like they brought sentientness to the world. Like something's different about here, and it doesn't seem like it comes from here. But it's like, did they gene splice with other species? It seems like they could have, or these are other humanoid species themselves from other planets.
State that Amun-Ra rose to prominence, becoming Egypt's chief deity and king of the gods. Amun became so widely worshipped that he came close to becoming the sole deity of Egypt, with the other gods merely being aspects of his great power. Osiris, judge of the dead and king of the underworld, was one of the most respected gods of ancient Egypt. His story of death and resurrection inspired the Egyptians to follow in his footsteps and seek immortality for themselves. The elaborate tombs and burial rituals found in ancient Egypt were all built in search of this goal, with the funerary practices being done to aid the spirit in its journey through the underworld. Pharaohs and wealthy nobles could afford more elaborate burials with trinkets and spells to help them in their journey, but it was entirely possible for the average Egyptian to survive the underworld as well. The soul would travel through the underworld, avoiding dangerous monsters until it reached the hall of Ma'at, the goddess of truth. Here, the soul would stand before 42 judges and proclaim its innocence of a specific sin to each. After this, the soul would have its heart weighed on a scale by the gods Anubis and Thoth. The purer the heart, the lighter it would be. If it rose above the weight of the feather of truth that was placed on the other scale, then the soul would pass the trial and Osiris would evaluate its worthiness to pass into the afterlife. If it was heavier, however, then the monster Amit would come and devour the heart, erasing the soul from existence. Egypt's most important goddess, Isis, was so beloved that her worship practically eclipsed that of her husband, Osiris. As mother of Horus, the god who represented kingship, she was thought of as the mother of the pharaoh, with each pharaoh thought to be under her protection. Her healing magic was invoked by ordinary people, greatly aiding her popularity, and she was thought to use magic to protect the entire kingdom from its enemies. Her magic was so strong that she even used it to challenge the mighty sun god Ra. She created a snake to bite him, only healing him of its venom when he revealed his true name to her, which greatly enhanced her power. Son of Isis and Osiris and god of kingship, Horus took an important place in the pantheon of gods. As the mythological rightful king of Egypt, each pharaoh was thought to embody Horus during life and his father Osiris during death. Horus was also considered to be Lord of the Sky, imagined as a great cosmic falcon whose right eye was the sun and left eye was the moon, with the downsweep of his wings producing the winds. Seth, god of chaos and destruction, opposed the harmony presented by the divine triad of Osiris, Isis, and Horus. Known as the Red One, Seth personified anger, violence, and was often thought of as the embodiment of evil. He was a god of the desert, or red land, threatening growth and vegetation that was needed for life itself. As a mythological opponent of Osiris and his rightful heir Horus, Seth represented rebellion and discord within the kingdom. Seth was thought to express himself in the world through crime, disease, civil unrest, and foreign invasion. Despite all this, Seth played an important role in the nightly journey of the sun god Ra through the underworld. Every night, Seth would travel with Ra in his bark until the serpent Apophis, Ra's mortal enemy, attacked. The serpent would hypnotize all the gods, including Ra, and would only be resisted by Seth, who would stab it with his spear, repelling the beast. Arguably the most important deities of Egyptian mythology were the sun gods. Foremost of these gods was Ra, whose body was thought to be the sun itself. Ra was thought to have created man from his tears which fell to the earth. He then created kingship and ruled over his subjects as the first king, until he became old and weary. He decided to depart Earth and was raised up to the heavens on the back of the sky goddess Nut. It was here that he became king of the heavens, now ruling over the gods instead. It was thought that the scarab god, Khepri, represented the morning sun, as he pushed the solar disk from the horizon to the sky, In the same way, scarab beetles roll balls of mud along the ground. Ra represented the midday sun as he sailed across the sky in his day bark from sunrise to sunset, accompanied by an entourage of gods. The creator god, Atum, was then thought to represent the setting sun each day. At nightfall, Ra entered the underworld on his evening bark and fought off his nemesis, the giant serpent Apophis, with the help of the gods travelling with him. Ra was rejuvenated on his nightly trip and was reborn anew each day at dawn to repeat the process all over again.
Maybe you've seen the headline. What if I told...
Sorry, y'all. I have to, not let that play.
As a manifestation of his power, several goddesses acted as the eyes of Ra. These goddesses were some of the strongest deities in Egyptian mythology, crushing the enemies of the sun god with their immense power. Because of their ferocious aspect, these goddesses were often depicted as lionesses. Most prominent of these lioness goddesses was Sekhmet, the daughter of Ra. She was known to breathe fire in battle, with the hot winds of the desert being known as the breath of Sekhmet. It was thought that when Ra grew old and tired at the end of his kingship on earth, his human subjects plotted to usurp him. Ra sent Sekhmet to punish them, whose wrath was so intense that she nearly wiped out all of humanity. Not all of Ra's eyes were as ferocious as Sekhmet, however. Bastet was such a goddess, starting out as a lioness deity but transforming into a cat deity from the Middle Kingdom onward, as her ferocious aspects were toned down. She still fought for Ra, helping battle his eternal foe Apophis, but was also a protective deity, watching over women during pregnancy and acting as a
the
nurse.
Greeks equated her to the goddess Artemis.
To the pharaoh. Some of the eyes took the form of a cow, symbolizing their procreative role. One such goddess, Hathor, was the goddess of women and motherhood and was strongly connected with female sexuality. She was thought to watch over conception and childbirth. She was sometimes depicted as either the mother or wife of Horus, the god of kingship. Thus the pharaoh was called the son of Hathor, and queens were associated with the goddess. She was also linked to the afterlife, with women eager to assimilate with her after death, in the same way men wish to assimilate with Osiris. Neith was another eye of Ra who took the form of a cow. In some accounts, she predates...
One thing I love about the pagans is they don't get confused on what's male and female. The only ones that seem to do that here are American pagans with the blue hair cult, the rainbow cult. Real pagans laugh at that rainbow cult, man.
Creation itself, and was the creator of Ra, his enemy Apophis, and of mankind itself. She therefore embodied a maternal figure for both gods and humans. She was the mother of the crocodile god Sobek, and was thought to care for all the
earlier about the pineal gland and how Horus is like Jesus.
Crocodiles of Egypt. Her maternal side was contrasted with her warlike role, where she was said to be a master archer. This association with weaponry led the Greeks to associate her with their own goddess of warfare, Athena. Ptah was the god of craftsmen and the patron of the great city of Memphis, which was the first capital of Egypt after its unification around 3000 BCE. It was the view in Memphis that Ptah was responsible for creation, with him creating the world through thought and creative words. He was believed to be the sculptor of the earth, forming the planet and much on it on his potter's wheel. It was Ptah that created the arts and crafts, who then shared his gifts with humanity. Anubis, god of embalming, watched over burials to ensure souls made their way through the afterlife. He watched over tombs and punished grave robbers who would desecrate the dead. He had a strong link to his father Osiris, whose body he wrapped after death, creating the first mummy. He became god of the embalming practice, thought to watch over the embalming booths where priests would prepare a body for burial. The canopic jars which would hold important organs during the embalming process would sometimes be modelled after Anubis, although it became more common for them to feature the 4 sons of Horus, with each protecting one of the lungs, stomach, liver, or intestines. After watching over the burial, Anubis would then take a key role in judging the soul's worthiness to enter the afterlife, weighing its heart against the feather of truth. Only if the soul passed would Anubis send the soul to Osiris for final judgment. Thoth was the god of writing and knowledge, along with balance and harmony.
My
He was
favorite.
thought to have been born from the forehead of Seth after he had eaten the seed of Horus. Thoth was a moon god and was thought to have healed Horus's eye when Seth injured it in their battle for kingship. The mended eye now.
So this story is the same as the story about in the Bible about how Jesus will bruise him in the head and he will bruise you in the heel, referring to stepping on the serpent, Satan, his brother, Satan who defied the Father.
Thought to represent the moon. Thoth invented the art of writing and became scribe of the gods.
And as the Babylonians and Sumerians told it, Satan was the one that gave the humans around the Tower of Babel that were being used as slaves writing tools and words of contention so they could fight for themselves.
Recording the divine words, as well as recording the passage of time and the reigns of pharaohs. He watched over his sacred houses of life, which were libraries or centers of writing attached to temples. His wife was Seshet, who herself was a goddess of libraries, writing, and a keeper of books. As a god of balance, Thoth took part in the judging of the dead, standing by when the heart was weighed and noting the outcome for his record.
All right, so with Mot, okay, and then knowing that Thoth was standing by. So Mot was the ultimate judge, but Thoth was standing by. Now, so that's like in Christian lore, Jesus being the ultimate judge when you meet God at the pearly gates, right? So then Satan, for some reason, because they had to make it fit in the Christian lore, because this doesn't make sense in the Christian lore. But Satan, then if you're judged badly by Jesus, that you were not repentant and you were haughty and wicked, that you go to hell. And then Satan, their enemy, punishes you for not doing what his enemy wants. That makes no sense, right? But that is the parallel in Christian law.
Records. If you want to learn to write like Thoth or master the arts like Ptah, then you should check out Skillshare. The first 500 people to use the link in the description will get
blah 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 blah. Well, we're just gonna close that. I'm gonna have to clip that shit out in the recording. Whoops. All right. So this one is about Heka, the god of magic. We're just going to go ahead and go into that one.
Ever heard of Heka, the hidden god of ancient Egypt? He wasn't just a god, he was magic itself, the force behind creation and medicine. Heka was everywhere, from curing diseases to protecting children.
Look at the snake. It might be... I don't know. Maybe Ryan can comment. Is it being choppy for Ryan?
Children. He even guarded the sun god's nightly journey through the underworld. The medical symbol today? That's Heka's staff. His influence lives on. Subscribe Huga Movies for hidden history. Ever heard of Heka?
All right. Heka, god of magic. So it wasn't fantasy, it was state-sanctioned science. So now you can see how in the medical industry where that cross with the snake came from. That is why it is on your medical books, because everything we know medically is of ancient practice of magic. Isn't that funny that a medical procedure was looked at and called magic? I wonder why. Is magic really what they say it is today? makes you think. All right. Magic is very much science, and they know it. And that is why you are highly discouraged from it. Let me pull up my Instagram and see if it's being laggy for me too. Give me just a minute. It's not even showing me as live. Oh, right, because it's subscriber. I don't know. Maybe, I don't know if it's for you. I have to wait on Ryan to let me know if it's doing it for him. I'm super curious to know. All right. So, going into 5. Death, judgment, and the afterlife economy. This is Egypt's masterstroke. Core beliefs. Soul divided into 3 parts. Ka, Ba, Ak, Ren, and Ib. The heart weighed against the feather of Mat. Osiris judges the dead. The control mechanism. Moral behavior policed by fear of eternal consequence. Afterlife access required proper burial, rituals, and spells. Book of the Dead. Which I actually own an Egyptian Book of the Dead. I'm a psychologist, so to understand people, you have to understand their backgrounds, and you never know who's going to be in your chair. Priests as gatekeepers of eternity. And the Matrix insight on this is when salvation requires permission, control never ends. So, let's look at this video right here on judgment. Hold on. I don't know. I think this is the video I want to show you.
In ancient Egypt, death was not the end. It was just the beginning of a dangerous journey. First, your soul ka would leave your body and travel to the Hall of Judgment, where the jackal-headed god Anubis awaited. In ancient Egypt, death was not the end. It was just the beginning of a dangerous journey. First, your soul ka would leave your body and travel to the Hall of Judgment, where the jackal-headed god Anubis awaited. He would weigh your heart against the feather of truth. If your heart was light as a feather, Osiris would welcome you to the paradise of the Field of Reeds, where you could live forever in happiness. But if your heart was heavy with sin...
That phrase, paradise, is something that evangelicals believe in, and evangelical Christians have a lot of masonry, occult, and symbolism.
The terrifying Ammit, part lion, crocodile, and hippo, would devour it, erase...
This is like genetic gene splicing experiments gone wrong.
Erasing your soul from existence. That's why the Egyptians took mummification and burial rituals so seriously.
Like Frankenstein shit. It's got that kind of magic.
Because eternity was at stake. In ancient Egypt.
All right. So now we are, there you go, Thomas. It's your connection. So now we're going to move into we have 2 sections left. This one, 2 sections. This one's on monuments, memory, and eternal legacy. So the pyramids, temples, and tombs, they weren't just graves, they were psychological monuments. They had a constant visual reminder that pharaohs were eternal and that the system outlives you. The psychological effect humans made to feel small, authority made to feel timeless. This is how it's looked at today. But the witchy notes are that the stones remember and symbol the shape of the pyramid, symbols shape belief across generations. So look at Tesla with the pyramid and the 333. So 333 in divine numerology so we're going to look at that, what the spiritual meaning of 333 is. So Trinity 333, 3 points. 3 is a tiebreaker. Spiritually, 333 is a powerful sign of divine support, especially from ascended masters, encouraging you to trust your path, tap into creativity, and take inspired action, signaling alignment. So it goes back to the tiebreaker thing. Growth and balance in your life, relationships and career, often serving as prompt to trust your intuition and manifest your goals. There's a reason why 3 represents balance in the Bible. And it's because of that tiebreaker factor. So let's look at some videos on architecture of ancient Egypt's legacy.
In the heart of ancient Egypt, a captivating tale unfolds. The story of Senenmut, an ordinary man who ascended to extraordinary heights in the court of Queen Hatshepsut. Imagine this. Senenmut, born to common parents, served as Queen Hatshepsut's steward, treasurer, and her daughter's tutor. But it was his architectural brilliance that set him apart. He masterminded the construction of the grand mortuary temple of Hatshepsut, a marvel of ancient Egyptian design. Yet his rise wasn't without intrigue and jealousy among the nobility. Despite the odds, Senenmut navigated the treacherous waters of the royal court with finesse. His legacy remains shrouded in mystery, with speculations about his relationship with the queen. Was it romance or unwavering loyalty? The truth eludes us, but Senenmut's tale reminds us that history is also shaped by those who rise from humble beginnings to leave their mark on an empire. In the heart of ancient Egypt, a captivating tale
is tapped in with the numerology. All right, let's look at this next video.
What you are seeing is nothing but the wreckage of pyramids. This is how the pyramids looked when they were built 4,500 years ago. Originally, all the pyramids were covered with a fine white limestone that shined bright white under the Egyptian sun. Also, they had a pointed tip made out of pure gold. But after the fall of the Egyptian empire, most of the valuables were looted for thousands of years. This is what's left. Look at this image of pyramid.
So it's like one could only imagine what they truly were used for. Gold is the best conductor of energy, and they were all positioned according to the constellations. So when they got laid to rest, they believed that their soul was going to be teleported back to their home planets after they left the earthly freakazoid situation they were in. So let's look at the next video about that.
While some researchers believe that energy produced by the sarcophagi was intended to induce altered states of consciousness, others have proposed an even more profound possibility.
So the altered states of consciousness comes from the theory that Thoth, who ruled over Egypt for 25,000 years, was using this tomb that you're looking at to keep bodies alive in like a cryo state or some sort of stasis, and he would transfer his consciousness between each body as each body aged, and then he would put the body back in these tombs, and then it would go back to being young, and that's how he was able to live rule for 25,000 years.
That the stone boxes were used for teleportation.
The idea that these sarcophagi or boxes are some kind of teleportation device may seem, pretty amazing, but the ancient Egyptians did believe in this kind of a thing. And the idea of pharaohs going to stars.
So the second theory would be that they would be put in these tombs, these boxes where the mummies would be found, and that their soul would be teleported, like I was originally saying before we started this. But both theories could be correct because they have found different types of pyramids. The one about transferring consciousness, those look a little different than the ones that look like teleportation devices.
Stars and other places. That's part of the Egyptian religion.
This is not far-fetched in light of what we know about the ancient Egyptian belief in the transfiguration of the human body into light or lightning. While some researchers believe that energy produced by the sarcophagi was intended to induce altered states of consciousness.
So that part would be regarding the stasis state. Isn't this stuff interesting? This stuff is fucking cool, isn't it? All right, last section. Egypt as the blueprint for modern religion. The critical connections are the resurrection myth, divine judgment, sacred texts, priesthood intermediaries, and heaven versus chaos. So the resurrection myth. So even one thing Jehovah's Witnesses believed, and there was a lot of Egyptian occult symbolism in their early books and their hard copies. But the resurrection myth. So one thing they believe is that there's two groups of people after Armageddon that will survive Armageddon. One being the little flock, the 144,000 that go to heaven and rule as kings and priests alongside Jesus Christ over the great crowd of which no man could number that survives Armageddon and gets resurrected from death after Armageddon, that would live on earth eternally and be resurrected from a death state later, versus the 144,000 would be resurrected immediately at death into heaven. And then they mentioned paradise with Ma'at, and so there's a belief there in the Jehovah's Witness religion about the earth being transformed into a paradise. So it's a connection there. And same thing with like LDS. So priests, intermediaries, that is the belief that, there's a figurehead between you and God that determines your survival, that can translate for God for you to understand that you can't do it on your own. So priest, intermediaries, and then heaven versus chaos. So peace, serenity is achieved only after death, that it can't be achieved now, versus chaos, which is very much the hell state, dark magic, dark space. Later religions didn't destroy Egypt's system, they just inherited it and disguised it. So Egypt taught the world to monetize morality and how to weaponize eternity and how to make obedience feel sacred. That is the Matrix tie-in. For example, Egypt and Babylon were used as like examples of what not to be. They use the slavery aspect upon the Jews. There's a lot. So there, when it comes to the Matrix. So let's get into our next video, the Egyptian origins of Christianity. So we're going to go into that right here. If it'll play.
Egypt has been. You don't need a second job. You just need to learn how to talk. Cradle of civilization that has significantly impacted human history through its monumental.
I hope it doesn't play a friggin' commercial again.
The Egyptian origins of Christianity. Introduction. For centuries, Egypt has been recognized as a cradle of civilization that has significantly impacted human history through its monumental architecture, art, science, and religion. Over time, as empires rose and fell, ideas traveled and intertwined. Egyptian religious practices interacted with other cultures, especially during the pivotal era of Hellenistic Egypt under Ptolemaic rule. It was during this period that some seminal concepts later found in Christianity began to crystallize. This book unravels the evolution of these concepts by delving deep into the symbiotic relationship between ancient Egyptian religion and early Christianity. We investigate how these influences manifested themselves through shared narratives, rituals, and symbols. Furthermore, we scrutinize particular Egyptian deities such as Osiris and Isis to understand their role in shaping some key Christian doctrines and beliefs. As we explore this profound connection between two seemingly disparate religious systems, it becomes apparent that understanding the Egyptian origins of Christianity is more than an academic pursuit. It possesses the potential to transform one's perception about the essence of religion itself. Throughout this journey, readers will be stimulated to reevaluate their assumptions about religious boundaries and summon them to contemplate how ancient wisdom continues to shape our spiritual experiences today. As one delves into the study of Egyptian influences on Christianity, it is essential to understand that religious beliefs are not static entities, but constantly evolve over time, often borrowing elements from multiple cultures and religions. The beautiful tapestry that forms Christianity as a whole is intricately woven with threads from diverse spiritual traditions. Egypt has been a melting pot for different cultures and ideas for centuries before the birth of Christ, due to its geological location, making it a significant center for religious convergence. The Greek Ptolemaic rule between 305 to 30 BCE in Egypt led to a fusion of Greek and Egyptian culture, manifested in religion through Greek divinities acquiring attributes from their Egyptian counterparts. One such example is Serapis, a Greco-Egyptian deity combining both aspects of Zeus and Osiris. As Christianity emerged within this context, it could not help but be influenced by its Egyptian predecessors. There are numerous examples where parallel concepts can be traced back to earlier religions, such as both Isis and Mary being revered as mothers who stood by their sons through great adversity. Furthermore, the early Christian writers were well aware that Jesus was not the first God to die and then rise again. Osiris served as an original prototype for resurrection in ancient Egyptian myth. From symbolism like the Ankh, an ancient lozenge loop cross symbolizing life, that later transmuted into the Christian cross.
That's a womb. And also, they believed it was the key to teleporting your soul. The key to the ether, going into the ether.
Tales of divine incarnation, known from both Pythagorean and Egyptian.
That the actual pyramids and sarcophagus wouldn't work. The tombs wouldn't work without that key.
Traditions. It is evident that Christianity has absorbed and been shaped by its Egyptian sources. Ancient temples and religious texts, as well as funerary practices, reveal a complex interplay between Christianity and its antecedents. By examining the ancient religious interactions between Egyptians and early Christians, we can develop a deeper understanding of how cultural exchange played a pivotal role in the formation of the Christian faith. Recognizing these connections does not diminish Christianity, but rather enriches our knowledge about the intricate history behind its development. Appreciating such historical influences provides insight into spiritual matters that go far deeper than mere allegorical similarities between various myths. A comprehensive understanding of the shared history between Egyptian religion and Christianity can help us bridge gaps between cultures, facilitating greater empathy and cooperation across multiple dimensions. Moreover, learning from the past enables us to chart a better course for our future. As we grapple with religious conflicts that continue to divide humanity in the present era, recognizing our common origins fosters a sense of unity. By understanding the confluence
And
of...
that's the part that comes into play with being no part of the world. So this video, I encourage you to watch the whole thing. It's a 45-minute video, but it's called The Egyptian Origins of Christianity, Hidden Truths Revealed, and it's by Eminio Documentaries. They are not paying me for this. It's just a really good video to watch, and I really encourage you guys to watch it. So, and then I've got one more video for you, and then we are out of here.
And that's, now some things help in overall Bible study, and that's, I suppose we can call it nomenclature or whatever, but Egypt in Scripture is always a picture of the world.
Right.
That's why Israel was always instructed to stay in the land of promise and not go to Egypt, as we were talking at.
All right, so they don't want you to look at Egypt. They want you to stay out of Egypt. Don't be like them.
Break time.
That's the first part of slavery. Make them dependent on you. Instead of teach them this magic, this medical science, how to take care of the mind, body, and soul, have someone else pay you for it.
You see, all of these things in the Old Testament are a living example of New Testament doctrine or teaching. And the same thing holds true today. As a believer, as a child of God, we're admonished constantly by the Apostle Paul that we're to separate ourselves from the world. Mm-hmm. Well, Egypt was a picture of the world, and so God had implicitly instructed them to stay in the land.
No, this guy's an evangelical, so, but you have to, I'm looking at it with you from the free lens. They didn't want you knowing how to do these things, so you pay them for it.
Of promise and not go down into Egypt, as I said, which is a picture of the world. But Adam's faith probably weakened a little bit, and famine came in, and first thing you know, where is he? Down in Egypt. Now, some things help in over...
Because he knew where to go to get help. That's why he was down in Egypt. All right. I hope you guys enjoyed this. We're going to come to a little close here. So I invite you to basically reclaim your soul. Whose rules govern your afterlife? And on the next episode, we're going to talk a bit about Israel and how this ties into the picture. We're still in the Egypt era. But after the Egypt era, we will move into Greece and their philosophy, reason, and democracy, and how Rome came gunning for Israel as well. Because it's just history and what's important. Don't let anyone use your eternal life as leverage upon you. When it comes to cosmic order, trust your gut. We are made from the earth. The earth is made from stardust. Remember that knowledge is restricted by class, and ritual is used for behavioral conditioning. And what does the word religion mean? It's something you do religiously, ritually. That is behavioral conditioning. That is not spirituality. Your soul, recognize when your soul is being used as currency and reclaim your soul. And with that, I bid you guys adieu, and I hope you have a lovely Sunday evening.